You do an intro first, then.
Yeah, we're live.
Live.
Yeah, we're live.
Welcome, everyone. So, Mental Health Warriors first. I'm in Lancashire with Adam. And yes, tonight we're talking about science of the inner critic.
Yeah, Elin the inner critic, yeah.
Inner critic. So who wants to kick off? So Kerry, do you want to start? Do you want to share something?
Straight on the spot. It's not my job.
Adam,
I don't know. Healing your inner critic. When I hear those words, it's silencing the voices in your head that tell you that you're a fuck up, you're a failure, things like that. Silencing those inner demons in your head that tell you that you're not perfect and that lot. That's what I think when I hear those words.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Kerry. I think we all have those voices in our head. Sometimes they're encouraging and motivating, and sometimes they're the critic. But that, words that put doubt into our mind and can be some of our insecurities. So I agree with Adam. Over to you, do you wanna...
Yeah, I just think the critic, because obviously we can become our own biggest critic of others, but it's obviously we need to basically show discipline towards ourselves by using positive affirmation to say, and even focusing on who's in our support circle as well, because obviously people can drag us down. So it's who do we look for that peer support to say, right, we need to move forward rather than move backwards.
Yeah, excellent point there. Perhaps if we go over to Ashley, do you have anything to add? Any thoughts on?
Well, I think, like Kerry had said, a lot of times our inner critic is going to be negative. And unless we can discipline our mindset to tell ourselves the opposite and that those are lies, that we are good enough, we are beautiful, we can love ourselves, I think until we can do that and consciously make that decision, you're going to battle with those negative thoughts of I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy enough and I'm not valuable to other people. But we also have to remember that our value isn't found in other people. So that is a big game changer when you realize that your value doesn't come from the opinion of others. So that's what I've got.
That's great, Ashley and Rachel. How do we deal with being a critic? I think there've been a few things mentioned. I mean, Adam said about affirmations and having a support group. Ashley said about sort of assessing the value of our thoughts. What do you think? You got suggestions of how we might deal with being a critic?
Yeah, so the inner critic is actually a part that I've been looking at and sitting with. And in talking to my therapist, we do IFS, which is internal family systems. And it's been really powerful to actually give space to that part of me and listen and like sit with that inner critic and say, you know, what are you worried about? What are you scared of? Recognizing that that part of me is trying to survive and sometimes has this really high standard because she thinks that's what's required in order to survive. So I've actually done these practices of like facilitating just an internal conversation or even writing it down in a notebook, you know, pretending I'm having a conversation with that part of me and getting to know her a little bit. So that's been really, really interesting. And I think it's a great way to accept that part of yourself rather than just completely like wanting to ignore them. So yeah, I think the inner critic can be challenging, but they're usually there for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a great point you make there. I think sometimes we think, ignore, try and push it away, ignore it, but actually, perhaps there's some benefit to looking and saying, well, why do we have these doubts? Why do we have this voice? Putting this, criticizing us, and then sort of looking where it's coming from. Maybe sort of having a bit of understanding can give us a bit more sort of strength in better coping with things. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I did this one exercise where I asked her to go on vacation, and that was kind of interesting. Just letting my inner critic know that she could take a break, and of course, she wanted to keep working, but it was a fun exercise to do.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so obviously, as we said, we can all be our biggest critic, but how do we control those intrusive thoughts that say we're not good enough, we're better off alone, stuff like that? Kerry?
I found through therapy, I can silence the thoughts in my head. So my thoughts, to answer what was being said before, can't get my words out tonight. A lot of the inner critic thoughts come from maybe being bullied, going through trauma, whatever trauma that may be. And a lot of that is because of all that. Mine is anyway. And I think that's echoed around anybody else that's got mental health issues. But silencing them through therapy. So something that my therapist taught me was doing a worry tree and doing a thought tree. So we'd think about what was being said in our heads. Is it valid? Do we think that is true about us? Do we think it's not true about us? And then writing it down and saying it's not true, and then saying the opposite. So if your inner critic is telling you you're not perfect, you say, but I'm me, I'm unique, I'm me. Things like that.
I think that's. I mean, I've heard a similar thing, Kerry, about keeping a journal, writing it down, and then partly sometimes you have to. I think you have to question it and say, well, if you have this inner critic criticize, you say, well, what evidence there support that? Is it that because often with inner critic, it's not a rational voice, telling us things, and sometimes we've got to question that inner critic and say, well, is there any evidence to show that I'm bad at this or failing at this? And sometimes, like you said, Kerry, sometimes if we aren't very good at something, or we are struggling with something, again, is that the end of the world? Isn't that how we learn and grow anyway? Isn't that part of who we are?
Yeah, I mean, there is a saying in the mental health world, we have to go through shit to grow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has to go through shit in order to grow into the person we need to be.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Ashley?
I guess some of the things to really get through, like processing, like Kerry had said, as far as the tree, You know, for me, I just journal. I am a big like prayer journal person, or just journaling in general. So then I can really get my thoughts out. The other thing too is sometimes it's changing the perspective of how we're looking at the situation, and going into maybe gratitude. That's not obviously always a cure-all, if you will. But sometimes when we can take the focus off of what's not working and go into what is, and be grateful for those moments, and really get our situations to work for us and not against us, that can make a big difference.
Yeah, like last night with the journaling. Sorry about that. My mind was racing on a few different things, because obviously we've got a busy weekend this weekend, and I ended up going downstairs at like 4:30 in the morning and just writing everything down, and that actually helped, because I was able to then go back to bed and go back to sleep. Writing things down is a method that does work for me, and I would recommend it to anybody to try it, because you'll never know if it's going to work for you until you've tried it.
Yeah, I like the thought. I think I know from my own personal experience, sometimes when I've had a bit of a the critics sort of criticize me, it's a bit of sort of, I've had moments of overwhelm where it's like these things, there's something I'm struggling to work through, something I'm struggling through, and it's get a bit of overwhelm of things. You just want to like have that clarity of thought. It's like sometimes you can have these voices saying that you're not doing well in something, you're struggling with something, and it's a reflection of how you're not doing very well at something, and having that clarity of just to find a way forward. I think writing it down, just that real helps you focus, isn't it? I think that's something that definitely works for me. Just writing it down and to have that clarity and focus is it's a good technique for me.
So what works for you, Rachel?
I would say giving myself space to cry if I'm feeling a lot of emotion is really important. And then also trying to get out of my head and into my heart and my body. Like just getting outside for a walk can help. Maybe going to the gym and doing a workout, just something to like be moving instead of just sitting there and ruminating tends to help me in those moments.
Yeah, I was actually told that last week it was, where every time I went to the gym, because I've not been in ages, I'm in that zone, and I'm a different person, and I'm literally switched off from everything, home life and stuff like that. So maybe I need to get back there. Sometimes too, it helps me get off my phone. Like just being at a class and knowing my phone's in my purse or in my car, and I'm not going to check, all the notifications. That can be really helpful too.
I wonder if sometimes we need to get out of our head, in a sense of, when we have these, the voices in the critic, if we get too much absorbed in our, in our own head of these thoughts, maybe we just need to distract ourselves and get out of that. Sometimes it's a healthy distraction. Sometimes what we need in these moments.
Yeah, I find reading helps distract my mind from a lot of things, because you escape into whatever reality is in the book.
Yeah,
and you can obviously get out of your own head and silence the thoughts in your head, because you're focusing on the words in the book.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can identify that as well, Kerry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ashley, with obviously you being practically a home tutor, with a business and with everything else that's going on, how do you cope and how do you handle your intrusive thoughts?
That's a great question. So my husband and I actually just had a conversation about this last night, because there are doubts there are doubts in my mind if what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. There are doubts of, can I make this work? And really what I have to do is think about, okay, what if I don't do this? Like, what can I learn from the situation? You know, and it's not just women that obviously struggle with doubts, obviously, but you know, my husband even said, he's like, I hate it when I doubt my ability to do XYZ. And he battles with that quite regularly. And I'm like, okay. So then we kind of talked it out. But it's really about recognizing, okay, why am I having doubts? Like, I know I'm capable of doing this. I've done it 100 times before. Why do I have doubts about this particular situation? So I think it goes back to, as far as reminding ourselves, okay, this doesn't work. How can we change it to give ourselves the evidence that we can do it? We can approach the situation differently or the same as before because it worked that way before. So again, for me, it's that journaling piece. And raising 6 kids here at home and homeschooling and being a business owner, there are a lot of doubts, a lot of I'm failing my children, I'm this, I'm that. There's a lot of that. But then at the end of the day, when there are moments that I see my children are helping one another, or I get complimented because of how well behaved they are out in public or something along those lines, it's like, you know, I'm hard on my kids for a reason because I want them to be functioning children in society. But at the end of the day, I have to remind myself, I do have really good kids. They can drive me batty because that's what kids do. And that's how they behave in their comfortable environment. But when they can go out in public and they can help people and they want to be, you know, in the midst of how can I help you? What can I do? How can I do this? Those are the types of kids that I have to remember I'm raising. They're serving other people and they're serving with their hearts, not out of selfish agenda. So it's a lot of inner critic and it is a lot of mental work. It's not perfect, but sometimes you just have to cut through the noise.
I don't know what you'd throw to Hannah. Do you think obviously inner critic is we are, perhaps as humans, we compare ourselves, you know, I think we do it instinctively. We all compare ourselves to other people we know and how we're doing. But is that part of it? You know, like, you know, we are constantly thinking, oh, should I be doing this like other people? Should I be doing this better? You know, we're about comparing ourselves to other people who, and whether we should be at the same level or standard other people. Is this part of the problem with the inner critic? Is it linked to comparing ourselves when we should compare ourselves because we're individuals and we're all different? Is that an aspect or not? Do you think? Throw it out there.
I can answer unless somebody else wants to.
Yeah, I do actually have. So, there's a lot. I think there's a lot about this in social media. So obviously, it's everywhere. You see how parents make the kids pretend to like each other or love each other for pictures and everything like that. And you think, why can't my kids just have a picture like that? Lucas and Tegan would never have a picture together. They hate having pictures together. Lucas doesn't like me taking pictures. Every time I get my phone out and play like Lucas, he's like, no, go away. I wouldn't even be able to pay him to let me take a picture. Unless he's in a really good mood, he will not let me take a picture. And I'm forever like, why can't you just be like some other kids and let me take a picture? Because I want all the memories. But obviously, he's near enough a teenager. He doesn't think like that. So yeah, it's a lot. being a parent and comparing your kids to other kids is like, why can't you just behave yourselves in public, sort of thing. Social media makes it worse.
We'll try and game on Sunday.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
We'll see.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I bet you a tenner it isn't gonna happen, and I'll put it on public.
Deal. Yeah. I just think we shouldn't be focusing on bettering others, or even thinking about them bettering us. We should just be focusing on bettering ourselves. But I know that's easier said than done, with all the trauma and being let down, and we are literally scared of showing any signs of positivity in our lives. And that's what it goes back to. We need to surround ourselves with that positive circle.
I think we also need to remember that a lot of what you see online is all fake.
Yes.
It's fake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see all these people where they've got spotless, gleaming shore houses. You know for a fact behind that camera, there's going to be a room that's trashed. You know for a fact it's going to be. They chuck it behind the camera, take that perfect picture, look at my perfect, gleaming house. Yeah, you're fakers. I'm not going to swear, but you know for a fact it's fake. Nobody's house is like that, especially when they've not got kids.
How's the laundry happening, Ashley?
Hey, I got it done.
Yeah, it's hiding somewhere.
No, it's well, the only thing hiding is the shirts that I have to hang up, and those are laying on the closet floor.
See?
But everything else
hiding.
Is done.
See, there's my point proven. Things are hiding.
So Rachel,
that's why a bed's perfect made.
Going back to, because obviously I know I put in the description it's a trigger warning video, because it could end up being like that. So, what does the inner critic look like from your experience?
Yeah, so for me, the inner critic is this driver who wants to achieve more and more and more. And I think part of that comes from, as a kid, being praised for doing well in school and, you know, setting this expectation for myself that I should always be achieving, succeeding, you know, excelling. And so for me, like working with the inner critic, I have to learn to slow down and to take that pressure off, you know, almost like take the gas off and let the car roll to a stop, you know, and take a breath. It was really interesting, though. I had this conversation with a friend whose inner critic was kind of the opposite, where she would get stuck and she wouldn't want to do anything at all because she was scared that she would fail. And so her inner critic was telling her, you know, don't even bother, don't start. You could, you could mess up. So I just thought that was so interesting because it had never occurred to me that the inverse of what I experience could be true for someone else, you know, so I think that kind of points to each of our inner critics is different because those early formative years, we all experience something different. So I think it's just really good to spend the time and get to know, like, okay, well, what is that for me? You know, so I feel like my inner critic, she tends more towards burnout, you know, of just over giving and overdoing. And yeah, I have more awareness of it now, but it's still always a work in progress.
Rachel, pick up, like, did the language you use, like when you're talking to your inner critic, make a difference? For example, I think with me, it's every time I do something, it's like, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if you fail at this? It's like, that's for me often. But then it's like, well, what if it does work out? I mean, you know, we don't know. Every time we do anything, we never know if it's going to work out. But for me, that's the most common thing of my inner critic. It's like, well, what if this goes wrong? Whether I sometimes do things, well, I suppose for me, it's turning around to myself and saying, well, what if it goes right? I mean, that's sometimes scary as well if it goes right. But just follow up you, Rachel. Is that? Do you think that the language we use when is that important?
Yeah, I think it's good to be aware of those thoughts and just being able to identify, okay, that thought is happening for me. There's power in that because you can kind of stop yourself for a second and say, okay, this is that inner critic part. This is maybe not my true self, at work. I feel like my inner critic is always saying, can't you do more? What, and kind of like a future driven, what's next, what else? So there's an element of time too, and sometimes like a feeling of rushing. So I've been able to at least identify that as something that stresses me out and, just slow down and breathe and take a minute.
Yeah. What's it look like for you, Ashley? Because I know you've experienced burnout before, haven't you?
Yeah. So for me, it really came down to, as I said before, my value. I was looking for my value or my validation from my husband. Now, it is something, yes, that's nice to hear, obviously, that you are valued. But when I didn't get it from him, or the appreciation, if you will, from my kids. Now, keep in mind, they're 6 and 13, or 6 through 13. So they were young. Why did I think that I needed to seek validation or appreciation from my children for all that I do for them? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to appreciate anything until they're out on their own. Let's just be honest, because that's how children are. They might say thank you and they might say please, but you're not going to get the, thanks for doing XYZ for me while I was growing up, Mom. Thanks for taking me here. Thanks for doing these things for me. You don't hear it until they're gone. But it ultimately turned into resentment for me because at the time when I was especially going through my period of burnout, I had just had baby number 6. I was extremely sick and like a near-death experience sick. And I had such high expectations thinking that, okay, this happened. Now, why are my expectations of spending more time together as a family and making memories and doing all of the things, why are those not being met? Versus, okay, you're back home, great, now clean the house and do the laundry and back to normal life while I go back to work and work 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks and you hardly ever see me. So then I'm in this, like, what felt like for me, single mom mode, and it was very exhausting. And then I would get a text message, oh yeah, we went out to lunch today and we did XYZ, and I'm over here slathered in, baby vomit or warming up, milk in a bottle and changing dirty diapers and trying to keep the house clean and everybody alive. And I'm in survival mode. Good for you. You got to go out to lunch. And here I am stuck. So for me, that was extremely difficult. And I had a friend tell me, he was a pastor at the time, he had told me, he's like, Ashley, why are you still married? He literally asked me that question. He's like, why are you staying married? And 2, he's like, where does your value come from? Because if you're going to continue seeking it in your husband, you're never going to have that met. So you need to flip the script and remember where your value comes from. So that was a huge like game changer for me. And it drove me deeper into my Bible and stuff like that, where, you know what? You do you over here, and I'm going to focus on me and getting my mind right and into remembering who I am and who I was created to be. So that was a big deal. But yeah, ultimately, like if you can't get yourself out of that resentment rut, you are going to struggle. So you have to figure out whether it's therapy, whether it's making a connection with a coach, a friend, whoever it is, like you said before, surrounding yourself with a positive circle of people that are going to encourage you, going to hold you accountable, but also lift you out of where you are. That's critical.
Yeah,
Eric?
definitely. I mean, well, obviously I started volunteering. So it's only once a fortnight, but when I'm in that circle, in the mental health group, we're all positive, and obviously whatever's said in that safe space, obviously stays there unless there are safeguarding concerns, which is different. And it's all positivity. So when I'm in that space, I can open up that I might have struggled in the last few days because of whatever. And I know for a fact that I'm not gonna get judged in that space. I'm gonna get supportive words, positive words that are gonna help me get through the next 2 weeks to the next meeting. And I actually look forward to going to them because obviously I know I'm going into that safe space and I'm going to meet new people who are going through similar journeys or different journeys to me, but all on a mental health journey, which is really good. Going back to what you were saying about mums, about feeling like a single mum and everything like that, I think there is a lot of pressure put on mums to bounce back too quickly after having a baby. And I don't think that is helpful to our inner critics because it's actually harmful to your mental health. You know, and this is why I'm not taking anything away from men's mental health because men's mental health is just as important, but the mental health of new mums is so important because at the end of the day, they kept a baby alive for the day, and that's super important. Screw the housework, you kept a child alive. You know, you've made sure your child is warm, fed, changed, cared for and loved. You know, that's the most important thing. You're looking after your child.
Yeah.
Oh. So for me anyway.
And I'm similar to when I go to AA as well because I don't get judged.
Yeah, finding that circle of people around you is super important and helpful to you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think for what you said, Kerry, I think we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and as the inner critic is part of that, isn't it? We set these standards of and the pressure to do better, be better, perhaps sometimes, and what we should be like. But I suppose, having that support group of people, whether it is family, friends, the AA, it can be anyone, but where or people who don't put any pressure on us, that's the whole point of it. The true support group is people who are just there to support and listen to us, whether it's friends or whether it's not necessarily friends per se, but people who are there to support us another way. But there's no pressure for us to be anything but ourselves. So that's really the ideal.
Yeah.
And we all need that, don't we? So that's a key thing.
Yeah.
What
do you think, Rachel?
I was thinking about too if you think of inner parts, you have the inner critic and then you also have the inner cheerleader, right? Like if you can start to tap into that voice that is the positive side and that tends to see the good or, tends to acknowledge and celebrate the things that are going well. I think that can make a huge difference too. And I think having people around us can help us start to identify that voice and lean on that voice internally too. Even just remembering to celebrate the smallest of wins when we have them, that can help us kind of reframe what we're focusing on. And that's one thing I like about this group from the content that I've seen is it's just, even if it's a small thing, it's recognized and celebrated within the group. And that starts to take on a lot of momentum for people, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we've got a question from Canada. Has anyone here ever tried breath work?
I have.
Breathing techniques.
Yeah.
I've tried plenty of breathing techniques. There's one, I'm trying to remember what it is. It's breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 5. Might be wrong there, but yeah, inhaling and out it, breathing out. My words. So, but yeah, breathing in, holding it, but then obviously breathing out. A lot of work like that. Is that what he means? You have to let me know if your comments back.
Is that what you mean, Robert?
I mean,
I can't see comments.
Within that is. Do you not see the comments?
I can't see the comments.
I think Wim Hof has a number of breathing techniques. He's
That's what I mean.
The Iceman guy. He does a lot of like cold plunging too, which the breath helps you in that situation where your body is so cold, you're kind of freaking out.
I think that's pretty. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I haven't gotten super into the Wim Hof breathing, but yogic breathing, there's like a few techniques in yoga that we do a lot that help.
I mean, I think mindfulness and meditation and a lot of these things are very, they're growing in popularity, and I think they're all, they're all sort of about stilling the mind, aren't they? Stilling, which obviously the inner critic is part of that. Your mind's not still. So I think there's lots of different sort of variations of ways to use breathing, and and like I said, meditation and mindfulness is a couple of ways I've tried, but I think there's certainly a whole spectrum of ways along that. But I think are very popular because they are very effective in the simplicity of what they're effectively trying to do, aren't they? I think
Yeah, I actually had a meeting with my volunteer yesterday, and we're obviously linking up with our local council to do like a health and wellbeing sessions at the community centre. And Tai Chi's been mentioned, yoga breathing has all been mentioned, and obviously there's talks about setting up training sessions where I'm going to get taught how to do all this, which I think is brilliant, because not only it'll help me, but then I'll be able to help other people do those breathing techniques and silence that inner critic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I've tried yoga and it doesn't work for me, but I do aromatherapy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the key, I think, is finding what works for you. You know? It's like there's no one size fits all.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all. What works for one person doesn't work for the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I want to touch on. I'm going to pick on you now, Kerry.
Uh-oh. Just because I'm not here every week.
Yes. Yeah, your dad's just commenting as well. In through the nose, hold for 4 seconds and breathe out through the mouth slowly. It helps you to relax. Yeah.
I got taught
because
that in
obviously,
therapy.
and I want everyone's views on this. Living with BPD, it's not the easiest. I get that, but you say you lose control over your intrusive thoughts and stuff like that. Expand on that.
Me?
Yes.
Right, okay. So, my intrusive thoughts, my inner critic, come from the shitty childhood that I had. So, I'm not going to go into it, but yeah. I had a really shitty childhood. I had a few positive things, but it was mostly negative. Sorry, Dad, but it just was. And a lot of the things that were said to me by people around me, including my mum, stayed with me. And I had to work through that with therapy. And I'm still working through it in my own head. So a lot of the intrusive thoughts is when I finally feel like I've got a handle on them and I can silence them in my own head by distracting myself, doing whatever I'm doing. When I lose control, it's every distraction technique I have for myself isn't working. The intrusive thoughts are just there all the time, and I can be cleaning up. You're not doing it properly. Your kids are going to end up ill and dying and everything like that. And this is the sort of things that I get in my head. And that's why I'll end up where if I'm doing the kitchen sides, I'll end up doing them like 2, 3, 4 times, telling myself I have done this right. My kids are going to be okay. And it does affect me on days, and it's happened this week where I've done the sides 4 times in one day because the voices in my head have told me I've not done it properly. So I've ended up doing it again. I've ended up mopping the floor twice because my voices have told me I haven't done it properly, and my kids are going to end up ill. That's the only way I can describe it.
Okay.
I don't know how else to describe it because I'm still learning about BPD myself, living with it.
Yeah. I just think, and please correct me everyone else, I just think someone with BPD with all that trauma in her life, because I admit, and I'm holding myself accountable, I abandoned her throughout the relationship because of me drinking. And I took full accountability for that now. But I'm constantly now reassuring that I'm not going to leave. Like for example, on Saturday, yes, Saturday was a hard day, and I admit that, and Kerry knows why. I was at a football game with our daughter, and she contacted me a text message, which how I got that text message in the stadium, I really don't know. But she said 911 emergency, which turned out our cat wasn't well, which he sadly passed away now. And Kerry wanted me to stay in that stadium with Tegan, but I'm like, no, family comes first, because I was explaining to her that I abandoned her all that time, and I'm not abandoning her through this. So I stuck by my word. Did I feel a bit of resentment from her towards me? Yes, I did. But I overcame that, and I stayed true to my word. And that's just how it comes. All about reassurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, living with BPD is hard. Especially when I'm flicking personality and moods. That can be a difficult day, where I don't know what personality I'm going to be from one minute to the next.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, just before you came on here, you was all jumping around and being annoying with Ashley.
Yes. Okay. I flicked.
Ashley.
I think for me, like, in general, like, a woman is going to have multiple personalities, like, just because of hormones, let's be honest. But when you're battling with something like BPD and you are a mom and sometimes I feel like just as women, because of how our brains are wired, our brains are connecting everything to an emotion. And when those memories or something triggers us, it can easily bring us back into those thoughts of, we're not good enough. Why is it everybody leaves me? Or why do I feel abandoned? Or I'm this, I'm that. And sometimes we can find ourselves sinking into that depressive state of mind where we're dwelling and we're wallowing and we're having that pity party. One of the things that in those moments that you can do is, okay, I'm going to have this pity party. I'm going to, wallow, but I'm not going to stay here. Set a timer on your phone. Give yourself permission to feel those thoughts. Think those thoughts, and then move beyond that. Okay, my time is up now. Now it's time to put on my big girl pants and go through it. But you have to give yourself that time. And I think as women especially, we don't want to necessarily feel our feelings. We would rather just stuff them. So when we want to stuff them and not feel them, then we avoid them. And I'm the type of person that when I avoid them long enough, then I'm going to explode. So it's really figuring out, how can I express what I need in this moment? How can I feel what I'm feeling in the moment? And then how can I get myself out of it? So it's figuring out those coping mechanisms, if you will, that'll work you through the process. And sometimes it is like a brain dumping or thought modeling or whatever, journaling. And sometimes it's verbalizing it to somebody. And it really and sometimes it's that breath work, but it really, like we said, it depends on what works for you. You have to try different things to see, okay, I can get myself through this faster because I use this technique. Okay, I can try this one, but this one doesn't work. So let's scrap that. Let's try something new. Be willing to try something new if one technique doesn't work.
That's what Baz said, and like Kerry, I really admire your honesty. In sharing of me, directly of me as well, obviously in this show. But I think also there's something around perhaps accepting that sometimes who we are, whether it's having the BPD, whether it's being an introvert, whether it's suffering from severe anxiety. If we sometimes something we have, we can't, that is who we are. And I think it's sometimes not about, can I change myself as a person, get rid of this or change this. It's more about, how can I manage this? I think that's the key thing. Sometimes I think, we all, sometimes we have, a condition and whatever, maybe, and that's who it is, fundamentally part of who we are. Yeah, I think that's accepting that and thinking, rather than thinking, how can I get rid of this? How can I change myself? It's like, well, this is who I am. It's part of me. Mm. How do I manage this so I can still have a great life? I guess that's kind of, does that make sense?
Well, with BPD, it's one of the sayings around BPD is we're going to accept the fact that somebody went out of our way to be negative towards us enough for us to develop this.
Sure.
And it's about us managing what we've come to. So with me, it's I can flick personalities, and I can go through multiple personalities in one day. So Adam, he says he gets away with having multiple partners because he can. Literally, he does have multiple partners. Really, it's just one of them.
That's
the only side of me he doesn't like is psycho side.
So, Kerry, do you think humour is important with this sometimes? Because I mean, imagine like sometimes of this, you know, you and Adam, you know, if you don't have a bit of humour, you know, as a way of coping, sometimes you just need to be able to have that, don't you?
We have a laugh about it, and that's how we get through.
And you know what? Your dad
Adam helps me.
actually put a couple of great comments. He put, "You need to face your fears head on and destroy them in your mind. Put it behind you and move on with your own life. It's your life. You are strong, and you have to be the best you can be at what you do the best."
Pin that. Yeah, that's a brilliant comment.
Yeah, and it's not a good idea to have a pity party, because that brings on the memory of why you're having a pity party in the first place. And the memory is not what you need at any time in your life.
See, I disagree with that one, because sometimes thinking about the memory, processing the memory, and then putting it to the back of your head, it can actually help you step forward.
Yeah, what do you think, Rachel?
I do think it's really important to give time and space to your feelings. And I liked what Ashley said about having a timer, you know, like having a limit to that, so that you can recognize when you're just kind of spiraling down with no way out. But it's a hard balance to strike. And I think, you know, it's an imperfect process that we're just going through day by day. You know, it's going to be messy, because that's what being a human is. It's, you know, emotional, and we're just here to experience all of that. So
absolutely, and that's all what we're living is an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we're creating that story that other people are going to pick up on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and at one point I thought I never had a story, and then obviously I spiraled, and Adam's tattoo, "My story isn't over yet," saved me, and that's why I've got it now as well. And yeah, I'm making my own story.
I like that. I like that, Kerry. It's a nice way of putting it.
It is absolutely.
Yep.
Ashley's thinking that's a dangerous thing.
No, it's not. Leave her alone.
No, I would agree. Like, you are the author of your chapters. You know, are you going to let somebody else write the chapter for you, or are you going to write it? So I think when we live in the opinion of other people, we're letting them write our story, versus we are taking that control and we are writing the story ourselves. Now, again, for me, my faith, I have to bring the Lord into my story with me, because he is the author of my story. That's my belief. Not everybody believes the same thing, and that's okay. So then you write the chapter. You be the author. What do you want it to look like? Is that story over? Okay, then end that chapter and start a new one. Like, there's a clean slate for you every single day. It's up to you whether or not you're going to take it.
Yeah.
So that's my pondering thoughts, if you will.
Exactly. And obviously, how do I say this? When there's a heated argument between a relationship, and obviously they've gone to bed angry, stuff like that, and then they've woke up, and that's that awkwardness. And then when they're trying to have a conversation and it gets heated again, that's doing nothing. That's just causing a lot of resentment, which nobody's gonna get the best outcome from it. So it's the two choices is, are you going to let life live you, or are you going to live life?
And I think also to add, I think we have to own with pride our imperfections. You know, no, there is no perfection, such thing as perfection, and no one's perfect, and our imperfections make us who we are. They create our story, and in some ways we've got to try and, rather than see them as a negative thing or be embarrassed about them, but try and sort of accept them and be, it makes us who we are, and that's own our imperfections.
Yeah, all down to accountability.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think another big piece is just the daily routines that we keep that help us stay grounded. To me, that's been a big part of, if you want to make big success, like big moves and growth and changes, you need all those little teeny tiny day-to-day things that help you.
Yeah. Graham's just put, having feelings in the back of your mind leak forward and lead to depression of what has happened in the past, and the past needs to be left behind us so as to move on. See, and I'd like all your views on this, because I'm probably going to be wrong or maybe right, I don't know. But in my view, I obviously believe the past is a lesson. Can we change it? No, we can't. We can't change what happened half an hour ago. What was said, it's been said. It's life. It doesn't matter. But it's a lesson, and that can be a trigger if we keep holding on to it. And that's not going to help us to build that self-resilience or self-accountability or self-gratitude to move forward. But even then, focusing on the future too much can also be a trigger and it can cause anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So we just need to live, and this is what I'm doing now in AA is, last time I was focusing on, right, I'm going to reach this many days sober, and I was counting days, but I'm now not, because I'm just living just for today. And obviously this is for me. If I don't pick up a drink, I'm winning. I'm not focusing about tomorrow. Tomorrow will come. So it's just all about today, because that's the gift of self-gratitude.
My little win every day is I don't end my life.
Yeah.
Because thing is, that's the thought that goes through my head every single day, that I'm better off not here, that nobody will miss me.
Yeah.
And it's a thought that it is with me every single day. And for me to go to bed every night without hurting myself, that's a win for me.
Yeah. So what is a win for you, Rachel?
Oh, there's so many every day. I mean, today it's hanging out with all of you, getting to know you.
Flattered.
I think lately it's just been my walking routine in the morning. Like, I really look forward to that. I get my dog and we go walk over to this little creek path. And it's, it's such a simple thing, but to have the time and the energy to be able to go do that really means a lot to me. So,
yeah. What about you, Nick?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to be more grateful. I think that's a win for me. If I could, I think it's the little things, really, isn't it? It's every day. I think I do achieve things, and it's easy to miss these and not recognise these. I think I've achieved something every day, and to me, speaking to someone every day, my family or friends, and having a regular contact, to me, those things are important. So for those, just doing those, having those positive little achievements is for me.
Can I suggest a win for you, Nick?
Sure.
You've travelled 3.5 hours to come and meet me and Adam.
I have, and it's worth it.
There you go.
Me and Nick's been talking for God knows how long about meeting, and it's reality because we put it out into the universe.
It did. Worked out well. It's the right time, place.
See, Ashley, Nick can do it.
Okay, you can't even compare that trip to my trip because mine is much further. Okay.
Don't make excuses.
Wow, Nick! Wow, Nick! You are cut off, Nick. Sassy.
Wow.
I'm only joking.
No, I think. Please, it's gang up on Ashley. See, Rachel, see what I deal with on a weekly basis? Like,
I'm
this
innocent.
is, yo,
It'd be
baloney.
lovely to meet you in person, Ashley, is what I meant to say.
Okay, well, come to the United States, okay? I don't recommend coming in wintertime, though, and that's approaching fast enough. I would recommend coming in summer. For me, honestly, a win is just waking up every day.
Yeah.
Because 6 years ago, I may not have woken up. So for me, it's waking up every single day and knowing that my kids are alive, my kids are healthy, we have a thriving business, and I just have to celebrate how far we have come. That's all I can do, honestly, and just be grateful for it.
Yeah.
Are you, Adam?
It is just be grateful every single day, and if we can wake up, obviously if you're in the family, have a family routine, but also have a family for yourself. Also have a routine for yourself. Whether it's waking up at a specific time, meditating, going for a walk, going to the gym, whatever, do what works for you. See, my routine, and sometimes it pisses Kerry off, is I'll come downstairs, I put music on because I'm one of these that I physically cannot clean without music. I'm one of them. I need music. Otherwise, can't focus. But yeah, just get yourself into a routine and live fucking every day.
Can I just add?
No.
Right. It only pisses me off because if you're playing something on your phone as well as music and the television's on, I can't process 3 things all at once. I get
You have to tell me, not
overstimulated
me.
and it triggers me.
You have the telly on, darling.
No, the kids have the television on.
That's their problem.
That sounds like a you problem.
I'm in the kitchen, not in the living room. Anyway, is that everything? Any final words? Anyone?
I'm all right. Bye.
Just do what works. Just do what works for you.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself to anybody. It's all fair.
Yes. Amen to that.
There's no right way, just your own way. Just find your own journey and embrace your imperfections.
Exactly. Rachel?
I was going to say, keep going. That's kind of the approach, I think, that I've been thinking about lately.
Yeah, just keep kicking ass. That's all I'm saying. Right, next week, we've got... Who've we got? Yeah, Ashley Skyven again, of course. Yep. We've got From the Trunches to Transformation. That's next week, back at 8 p.m. So please all subscribe and share, and I'll see you next week on his birthday.
Hey guys.
Yes.